Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Michelle Morris from Consolidated Planning Group. I'm so happy to be here with you today. We're going to be talking about key steps to transition success. A few things kind of before we get started. Hi, Andy and Carol. Thank you so much for being here. A few things before we get started. We are in webinar mode, which means I cannot see or hear you participants, but I do know you're out there. Any questions or comments that you have, I would love to know. Please feel free to put that in the chat box. That's the easiest way for me to be able to present the information and also keep up with any questions or comments that you might have. So please use the chat box for those. Um, the other thing I want to let you know is that we do record all of these webinars. We present live, we record them while we're presenting, and then we put them on our YouTube channel. So later on today, if you have registered ahead of time with your email, you're going to get an email that has a link to the recording on our YouTube channel, and it will have all the slides that we're going through today. So, yes, you will receive the slides, you will get a link to the recording. All of that will be taken care of. Again, since I can't see or hear you, you might as well enjoy your lunch while we chat or snacks. I've got my coffee still, so let's get into it. Consolidated Planning Group, a little bit about who we are first before we get into some hopefully helpful tips and tricks for you. We are located in Sugar Land, Texas, which is just outside of Houston. But because of the internet, of course, we are able to work all across the United States, and we do serve families everywhere. The information that I'm going to be providing today will be helpful no matter whether you live in Texas or Maine or Hawaii or anywhere. This will be helpful information to you. So we started off mainly serving families in the Houston and Texas area, and now we have grown to serve all over the country. The reason that we focus, as we are financial advisors that focus on the special needs community. And the reason that we do this is because there are so many nuances and rules and regulations and eligibility criteria that you need to know about in order to protect your loved ones. But not only do we understand all of that, we understand the unique challenges that you face because all of the financial advisors at Consolidated Planning Group are also parents to loved ones with needs. We have been doing this for over 30 years. We are fully licensed in things like investments and securities, life insurance, financial planning, and the special needs side of your future planning. We are chartered special needs consultants, members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, and we're nationally certified Social Security advisors. So we take this very, very seriously, and almost every single client that we have has a loved one with some kind of need. And that's where our hearts truly are, is to help serve the community. So not only financial planning, but we partner with you on things like lifetime care plans, protection plans for your family. What would happen to your family if the main breadwinner couldn't work anymore and that income was gone? Or what if the main caregiver in your family became ill or passed away and now that caregiving is gone? So you have to supplement with other care. Those things can be quite expensive. So we help look at what if that happens to us? How can we have things in place that are going to protect the family? We talk a lot about transition planning and ABLE accounts and different strategies for your loved ones. We're going to be talking about that a lot today. We do a future cost of care where we look at, not only while you're here, how much is your loved one going to need? Because that's kind of part of your budget as a parent, we feel. And part of your financial planning is taking care of your loved one. But eventually, just like all of us, you are going to pass away. And we kind of look at how much money does your loved one need in their special needs trust to make sure that their care will be continued even after you're gone at the high level that you provide to your loved ones. We help you with those state and federal benefits and local resources, help give you a to-do list of kind of what exactly needs to happen for your loved one. And again, we're here to advocate for you and to educate you. One thing that I've come to realize doing all of these webinars that makes me very excited is that it kind of feels like we're creating our own little army of advocates who understand more about special needs planning and can go out and help the community, help your friends and family and neighbors, and help them understand what they do and do not need to do and who they can contact if they have questions going forward. So I just love having a more educated community to be able to work with because there's so much noise out there and so many people who try to be helpful, but may not necessarily know all of those rules and regulations. Out of the entire United States, it's kind of rare to find a financial advisor who focuses on special needs planning. There are over 263,000 financial advisors across the United States, but fewer than 200 of those who actually focus on special needs planning the way that we do at Consolidated Planning Group. Um, that's less than a tenth of a percent of all the financial advisors in the US who focus on serving the special needs community. So, a couple of key items and key considerations before we jump into the transition topic. And this does relate to transition. You definitely want to think about as your child goes through school, they've been going to high school, they're busy during the day at school, but what is going to happen when they graduate from high school? They might be in a 18 plus program and be able to stay at school a few extra years, but you don't want your loved one to just graduate to playing video games on the couch or, watching movies all day or playing on their devices. So, what does that look like for your family? There are fantastic options out there. There are work programs. If you think that your loved one is able to hold a job and interested in that, there are work programs, there are volunteer opportunities to get them out in the community and building relationships and learning from that. There are fantastic educational options, very, very great programs throughout colleges all across the United States that can help support them if they decide to go to college, even if they live on campus. There are programs to help with that. And of course, there's a lot of residential and transition and day programs out there where they can help take care of your loved one and give support and educate them on various topics or just provide fun summer camp vibes. There's so much out there for your loved one. But these programs, you have to think ahead and you have to plan ahead. You have to tour, the communities and the opportunities and look at what is out there for your loved one. Um, the the best bit of advice, and I hope that you take this away with you today, is that no matter if you're jumping all in or starting small, the best time to start planning is right now. The longer runway you can provide for planning for your future, the more effective and efficient you're going to be, and the less stressful it's going to be. So think ahead, plan starting now. And finally, just give a lot of thought and consideration before you just assume that a sibling is going to be able or willing to take your place in the future and provide that same level of care. Um, it sounds like a great idea, and in theory, it seems like a great idea, but sometimes in practice, it's not as great as you would think. The caregiving sibling, maybe they have bitten off more than they could chew, or, they wanted to please you and help out, but now it's a lot. And the caregivee sibling might feel resentment towards their sibling because here they've been best friends all this time and now they're in a different relationship. So that could cause some issue as well. So just be very careful with that. Right. Jumping into the topic of transitioning for our kiddos. There are a lot of different time periods to think about when we think about what a transition looks like. First of all, turning 18. That's a big milestone legally. And there are some things that need to happen before your child turns 18 and right around that 18th birthday that are going to have a big impact on their future. When they leave high school, again, what's going to happen next? You don't want them to graduate to the couch. So, what does that look like? Another transition period, which may be different from turning 18 and leaving high school, is what is it going to look like when your loved one leaves your house? Are they going to go to an apartment complex or a residential community? Are they going to have roommates or a group home? What does that look like, and how can we help prepare for that? Because it's going to come eventually. Hopefully, it's not going to come at this last transition period when the parents are gone. That's one of my biggest fears for the families that we serve. I would love for your loved one to know and have some familiarity with where they're going before you as a parent pass away and you're not there to take care of them anymore. All right. So let's talk about transitioning to adulthood. First of all, we want you to keep in mind that everybody is different. This is not just a one-time thing, it's a journey. We want you to think about these four things as you're kind of considering what this transition to adulthood is going to look like for your loved one. First of all, before you even, talk to legal advice or talk to us, think about what your dream scenario would be. What does it look like to have care for your loved one in the future? What does a good life look like? Think about those things. Think about their social life, their employment, their housing, their care. What does that daily support look like for them? We want to make sure that whatever vision you have for the future is going to be financially feasible. And in order to do that, we need to know what your plans are for the future. We want you to create a letter of intent. We do entire webinars about this, but the letter of intent is a really great kind of instruction manual for your child's care and keeping. When our kids were young, real young, and we would leave them with a babysitter, we would have a little note, here's cash for pizza. Here's when bedtime is. Here are the meds they need. Here's the phone numbers of where we're going to be and the phone numbers for some trustworthy neighbors. The letter of intent is kind of like that little note, but way more involved on steroids, if you will, because this is an instruction manual for whoever is going to step into the role of caregiver when you are gone. So imagine I step in and I'm going to be taking care of your kids. The letter of intent will tell me, what do they love? What do they hate? What are their functional abilities? What do they really need help with? And what areas can you give them a little bit more independence? You also include facts, medical history, who the doctors are, who your support team is. And you should build out that support team. Starting now, think about who your circles of trust are and who is going to be there to help you with your loved ones in the future. You definitely should work with a financial advisor like us who specialize in financial planning for loved ones with needs. And you should definitely talk to a special needs focused attorney because they can help you with your will and special needs trust. The guardianship, if that's in your future, or supported decision making or anything like that. And they can also help make sure that there's no language in your trust that's going to cost your child benefits. Before you get started on planning, you should definitely take a look at what you already have in place. Do you have an IEP? Probably. Look up those records, look up any diagnostic reports that you have, social security statements. When you work with Consolidated Planning Group, we even consider things like your current life insurance and investments. How are those working for you? Are those going to grow to a sufficient amount to be able to take care of your loved one when you're gone? Or do we need to change some stuff up to make it better for them in the future? The letter of intent is, again, a really great tool to help provide continuity of care. This is not a legal document that has to be filed with a court. It's more just a love letter to your family. This is going to help, if somebody needs to step into your shoes and take care of your loved one, it will help minimize the trial and error period where they're trying to figure out your child and figure out how they function and what they like and who they are as a person. And it's very important because nobody knows more about your loved one than you do, right? So get them involved in this letter of intent. Um, think about the peace of mind that it's going to give you, knowing that um, the caregiver that you have selected for your loved one is going to have this packet of information basically to help guide them in caring for your loved one. So obviously, you're going to have basic facts, medical and health information. What about daily routine stuff? What foods do they love and hate? Where can they be independent and where do they need help? What does their going to school in the morning routine look like? What does dinner time and bedtime look like? If your child is having a horrible day, what can the caregiver do to make it better or turn it around? Or what could the caregiver do to ruin your child's day? And what should they definitely stay away from? What does their educational and work history look like? What family traditions and religious holidays do you celebrate in your family that you want passed on to your loved one? And what do you hope for the vision of their future? All of these kinds of things go into the letter of intent. Um, let's think about some common pitfalls to planning. When we're talking about setting aside enough money to make sure that our loved ones are taken care of after we're gone. So how do we think about how's that going to happen? Right? It's expensive. First, you need to make sure that you keep your assets separate. Your child is going to need their own separate bank account from yours. Now, it can have both of your names on it, but in general, you need to make sure that your money and your child's money are kept separate. If you keep your child's bank account separate, it makes things so much easier if you ever get audited. Um, definitely make sure that nothing you have that you want to leave to your loved one is left directly to them. So, for example, your beneficiaries on your life insurance. Maybe it says most people do this, right? They say, okay, my life insurance is going to go to my spouse if they're still here. And if they're not here, it's going to be divided equally between my children. That's what most people do when they sign up for life insurance. However, if your loved one with a disability gets that life insurance, it's going to ruin their chances of getting other benefits. You need to make sure that if you're going to leave anything to your loved one with disabilities, you need to leave it to their special needs trust, not to them directly. You also need to make sure that anyone else in your family who wants to leave them inheritance, or maybe a friend wants to help out, or aunts and uncles, they need to know also. You do not leave money directly to the child, leave it to their special needs trust. Some people ask, do we need an ABLE account or a special needs trust? And the answer to that is both might benefit you. Both of these tools are not created equal. They're not right for everybody. But an ABLE account is a place where your special needs loved one can have more like short-term savings. It's more like their wallet. Day-to-day spending would go in the ABLE account. Whereas the special needs trust is for things further out in the future. You can put a much larger amount of money into the special needs trust. And that's why your inheritance, things like that, go to the trust because that can have a lot more money in it. And you want to understand the benefits and resources that are available to you. Which benefits do you qualify? What are the rules for those? And how can you maximize them without being disqualified for those benefits? Because then your child won't have those benefits that can help pay for things throughout their entire lives. I don't see any questions yet in the chat box, so I'm going to keep right on going. But do feel free if you have any questions or comments to put them in the chat. So, at some point in your child's life, they receive a diagnosis. Or, you might have this inkling that something might be going on with my loved one. We're going to go talk to the doctor about this. As soon as you have a diagnosis or you have that question that something might be going on here, it is beneficial to get that child's name onto the waiver program wait list or interest list. Here in Texas, these waiver programs can be 20 years, a wait of 20 years to get the benefits. In other states, it's not like that. But we always say here, especially here in Texas, to apply as soon as possible. If you end up not needing those services when your child's name comes up on the list, then you don't have to worry about it. You just tell them no. But you could really shorten the time. Well, not shorten the time that they're waiting, but you can get those benefits earlier if you apply earlier. Hopefully, you'll do that when the children are young, but if not, don't worry, do it at any time. When your child turns 18 years old is when they should be able to apply for SSI benefits. Most children will not qualify for SSI until they turn 18 because when a child is minor, the Social Security Department looks at the parent's assets and income, not just the child. So if the parent's assets or income are too high, you're not going to be able to get SSI benefits. But when your child turns 18, then they're only going to be looking at the child's income and assets for qualification purposes. And then later on in life, when you, as the parent, turn on your Social Security retirement benefits, your child will receive a benefit based on your work history if they can't work themselves or they don't have their own work history. And they'll be able to get that benefit for the rest of their lives. So it's really important that you maximize these benefits and do them in the right order because there could cause some issues if you don't. I do have a question in the chat box that we can address real quick. If SSI and other benefits are canceled because of a special needs trust that is being considered as resources, who do you recommend to assist with that appeal? And can CPG help with that? We can help you walk through the situation and give you some advice on what might be happening. We can tell you how to appeal and what to say. If that doesn't work, we can also give you extra resources and people to reach out to who would be able to help you even more. For example, we have a representative who works at the Social Security office that we know. We also have attorneys, and we always advise that people contact their state representatives as well for help with those things. But Dana, we could absolutely help walk through that situation with you. All right, so let's dig a little bit deeper into that waiver program wait list. Now, like I said before, this is for the state of Texas. If you're in another state, you might not have a long wait at all. You might be able to just prove residency, or maybe the wait list is 2 to 5 years. Here in Texas, you need to make at least two phone calls to be able to get these waiver programs. First of all, if you want to apply for MDCP class or DBMD, you want to call this 877 phone number. The number to call is 877-438-5658. You might be thinking, do I need these waivers? Yes, you do. Everybody on this phone call should call this phone number and at least ask to be put on the waiting list for class. Class is a very broad waiver program. It serves almost anybody with any kind of disability. So everybody who has a loved one that is on this phone call, you should be on the class waiting list. Now, MDCP and DBMD are a little bit more specialized. MDCP serves medically dependent children. This is for children who are medically fragile. They have to be under age 21. And then DBMD is for deaf, blind, and multiple disabilities. So if your person is deaf and blind and has another disability, they can apply for that one. So those two are a lot less common, but they do help a lot of families. The second phone number that everybody on this webinar should be making to get on the waiver wait list is to call your local intellectual and developmental disability authority, or your LIDA. This is going to be things like Texana if you're in Fort Bend, the Harris Center if you're in Harris County, Tri-County Behavioral Health, MHMR, Bluebonnet, ACOG. If any of these sound familiar, that is your LIDA. And if you don't know who your LIDA is, you can call 211 and they'll tell you, or you can go to this link, which will be clickable when you get these slides later on today. Click on this link, put in your county, and it will tell you who your local authority is. So those are two places that everybody on this phone call should be reaching out to get on the waiver wait lists. When you call your LIDA, you want to be on any waiting list that they provide because those are all open to pretty much everyone and all very beneficial. Now, the last phone number on this list is for Star Plus. Star Plus is a program for people who are 21 and above. So if your child is a little bit older, you can get them on the Star Plus wait list. Now, the way that this works is if your loved one is on a waiting list, and let's say their name comes to the top of the list for class, they get the class waiver and they start receiving services, you can still leave them on the waiting list for the other programs. And when their name comes up for one of those, you have the choice to decide which program is a better fit for your family. So maybe the one that you are currently on will not pay for housing, but the one in the future might. So it's fine to stay on the waiting lists and evaluate when the time comes. Now, once you get your children on the wait list for these programs by making these phone calls, then you can go to yourtexasbenefits.com, create an account under your child's name, and on that account, you can look up where they are on the waiting lists. You're going to look for manage and then wait lists or interest list, and it'll show you where they are on those waiting lists. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about SSI benefits. This is what your child should be able to qualify for when they turn 18. This is a public assistance program that is funded by tax revenue. It's through the Social Security Department. They are kind of in charge of it, but they don't pay for it. Eligibility is based on financial need. You have to be in need It doesn't require any previous work history or paying into FICA taxes or paying into Social Security. It's purely based on your income and assets and the fact that you have a disability. So it's going to help pay monthly benefits to a disabled person because they have limited assets themselves. Right now, if a person has more than $2,000, they are not going to be able to qualify for SSI benefits. That means $2,000 in their bank account. Now, they can have more than $2,000 if that extra money is in the ABLE account or in a special needs trust. For money that is in your child's name, has to be less than $2,000. How do you become eligible for SSI? Well, there are these three big rules. Is you have to be considered disabled under the eyes of Social Security. You might have heard of the Social Security Blue Book. That's where you can look and see what are they going to require that you prove to show that your child is disabled. So, for example, if you say, my child is intellectually disabled, and you look at the Social Security Blue Book, it will tell you that that means an IQ below 70. If your child has an IQ below 70, yes, you are considered disabled under the eyes of Social Security. Again, that $2,000 limit in terms of assets is very, very important. They have to be earning less than substantial gainful amount if they're working at all. And you're going to need to prove that with pay stubs if they have a job. For 2026, that amount is $1,690. So let's say your loved one is working and they're earning maybe 800 bucks a month. That's totally fine. It will reduce the amount of SSI payment that they get, but it won't be cut off completely. If your loved one is blind, they can make a little bit more money, $2,830. Now, you're also allowed to have one car and one house in addition to that $2,000 limit. The other thing about SSI that's really cool is that it comes along with Medicaid. When you are approved for SSI, you're also going to get Medicaid. So it's best that you apply the month following the 18th birthday. So let's say your child turns 18 today. I would go ahead and wait till May 1st to apply for SSI just to make sure that people have been telling us that the Social Security Department wants you to wait till that next month now. You might need to go in, you might need to schedule an appointment to go in. So make sure, again, that that's after the 18th birthday. Apply promptly because they will backdate your application to the date that you start. So let's say you start that application May 1st. It's going to take some time for the application to be processed. And it can take up to a year for those benefits to start coming in. Once they do, however, they're going to back pay you back to the date when you first applied for those benefits. Now, that does cause some confusion and concern for a lot of parents because all of a sudden your child might get a larger check and be closer or go over that $2,000 limit. So you need to know that that money can be moved out of the bank account into an ABLE account. It can be spent down. It can be used for anything that your loved one needs. And you have a little bit more time to get that money out of the account because Social Security sent it to you, although they sometimes have problems remembering that. All right. Now, again, your benefits for 2026 is the monthly benefit of $994 a month. If you're married, unfortunately, you don't each get $994 a month. You only get $1,491, which is very frustrating because it's kind of a marriage penalty. And it does, again, it comes with Medicaid when you receive those SSI benefits. Now, here are some things that might affect how much money you get from SSI, and we will be talking about employment as well. So, the first thing that can affect your SSI benefits is child support. If child support is a thing in your life, and we know that it's very, very common in the special needs community to be facing divorce. Um, so you can have child support beyond age 18 when you have a loved one with a disability. If you do that, though, when your child turns 18, that child support is going to be counted as income to your loved one. So that would be counted unearned income and cause them to lose benefits. What you need to do is make sure that that child support is directed into a first party special needs trust. That first party trust is going to keep that money from counting against their SSI and Medicaid benefits. It's completely legal. You do need to have an attorney set that up for you. But it's pretty easy as long as both sides, both parents agree to it, to have the judge update your your divorce decree to reflect this change. It's way easier if you do this at the beginning, but if you're already divorced, you can certainly contact your attorney. You might need to also contact a special needs focused attorney to create the special needs trust for you, but they'll be able to take care of all of that. Now, if your child is working, that could reduce their SSI benefit amount. Again, they can work up to a certain limit, but it would reduce their benefits. It's not quite a dollar for dollar. It's more like for every $2 they earn, they lose about $1 worth of benefits. Now, if they're still in school and they're working, they're actually able to earn a little bit more money through the student earned income exclusion. As long as they're regularly attending school and working, they're able to deduct a little bit more of that income from counting against their benefits. Now, you do have to make sure that you ask the Social Security Department for this. They're not just going to do it automatically, unfortunately. So you're going to have to ask them. Um, so just be careful. If your child is working, keep an eye on how much they're making and how much they have in their bank account, because those limits are very important to keep track of. Make sure you don't jeopardize those benefits. Now, if you do make a mistake 1 month and lose SSI, they're usually pretty quick about reinstating those benefits. So don't panic, but do stay on top of it. Now, the main difference, we're talking about SSI versus SSDI. SSDI is based on people paying into Social Security and the Social Security retirement benefits that you get when you turn on those benefits that we've been paying into. Now, because your loved one might not be able to have a full-time job that's going to completely support them and pay for their needs, they can draw benefits based on their parents' work record. Now, this can be biological parents, step parents, um, adoptive parents. It can even be grandma and grandpa if they're adopted by grandma and grandpa. So the way this works is that maybe the parent has earned enough income to qualify for Social Security retirement benefits, or if the parent um, passes away, or if the parent becomes disabled, those benefits will turn on, and your child gets a benefit. It can be half, or it can be about 75% when you turn on those benefits based on the parent's work record. Now, after your child has been on this benefit for 2 years, they're going to receive Medicare in addition to Medicaid. There is one thing, one wrinkle that I want to mention right here when it comes to SSI and SSDI benefits. When you apply for SSI, you get that Medicaid that comes with it. You lock in that Medicaid for the rest of your child's life. Sometimes people get SSDI before they get SSI and Medicaid. That can cause you to lose Medicaid for the rest of your child's life. So you need to be very, very careful if you have that choice, which one you're going to turn on first. Please give us a call and let us help walk you through that process. We would hate for you to lose Medicaid because you've turned on SSDI too early. Now, sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes a parent passes away when the child is a minor, and that benefit gets turned on. And then when your child becomes an adult and switches to the 18 plus program, they're just going to put them back on SSDI and Medicare instead of SSI and Medicaid. So let's be careful with that one little wrinkle. Here we go. So the benefit trigger, when the parent turns on their retirement or disability, the child will get their childhood disability benefit, CDB. This benefit can sometimes be called SSDI, childhood disability benefits. Some people call it DAC. But this benefit that turns on when your child is under your record. So when you turn it on because you retire or you become disabled, your child gets 50% of what you should be getting. Subject to the family maximum, and you do need to prove that your child's disability started before they were 22 years old. Now, when parent passes away, the benefit switches to a survivor benefit, and that amount is 75% of the parent's primary insurance amount, which is the amount that you should be getting when you turn on your Social Security. So your child will go from 50% of your benefit up to 75% of your benefit, and they'll get that for the rest of their life after you pass away. So you can see, if your child's going to be getting 75% of your Social Security benefit, you definitely want to maximize that and not jeopardize it. So in order to get that benefit based on your work history, your child has to be over age 18. They have to have that disability that started before age 22, and you do need proof of that. The parent has to have worked enough to have Social Security benefits. Your child cannot be married. That's the second place where there's kind of a disqualification for being married or a marriage penalty. And if your child has worked too much themselves, they might not be eligible to receive benefits under your work history. If they've already worked enough to get their own Social Security record, then they're not going to qualify for your benefits. And like I said, when your child switches from SSI to SSDI, their SSI benefit will end, but SSDI or CDB is usually more. So that's okay. They're going to get more benefit. They're going to keep Medicaid if they're on it and gain Medicare after they've been on this benefit for 2 years. Just a reminder, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat box. We are recording, and you will get a copy of the slides and a link to the recording later on today. So an ABLE account is one place where you can save up some money for your loved one, where the money will not count against their benefits. So this is really great for that bank account that has to stay under $2,000. If your child is earning the full SSI amount, they're going to be getting $994 a month. So after just 2 months, they could be getting disqualified for benefits if they're not spending all of that income or enough of it to keep their bank account under $2,000. So what do you do when that bank account is nearing $2,000? Well, it's very easy to shift some of that money into an ABLE account. The ABLE account is a tax advantage savings plan made for individuals who have a disability that started before age 46. The income that is earned in that account is not taxable. So let's say you put $1,000 into the ABLE account. That money goes to purchase mutual funds or can go to purchase mutual funds if you have it set up this way. The mutual funds grow and earn income, and that income is not taxed. It also does not jeopardize any of their Social Security or Medicaid or Medicare or anything like that. The money in the ABLE account can be used for anything that can be construed as helping your child achieve a better living experience. They are the account owner. Now, because of that tax advantage part of it, there are limits, federal limits on how much money can go into the ABLE account. This year, for 2026, you can put in $20,000. Overall, the limit for Medicaid is that you cannot have more than 100,000 total in an ABLE account. So again, the ABLE account is to be spent on anything you need, but there are limits how much you can put in. Now, when your child passes away, if there is money left in the ABLE account, the state may be able to come back and get reimbursement for the Medicaid funds they have paid to your child. Again, they changed that age to 46 this year. You can put in $20,000 for your loved one. It's best if your loved one has one ABLE account. Anyone can put money in, but they cannot receive more than $20,000 into that account for the year. And do not ever let it go above 100,000. If they're working, they can put in a little bit more money each year, up to $15,650 more, if they earn that much at work. If they only earn $5,000 at work, they can only put in $5,000 additional dollars. But that does not change the $100,000 limit. If you have money in a 529 college savings plan already, you can roll that into an ABLE account. That is totally fine. It's not even a taxable event. It's no problem, and it's very easy. And they're also giving a federal tax credit now. Not a huge one, but about $1,000 if you contribute to the ABLE account. Now, we set up ABLE accounts for our clients, and we would be happy to set that up for you. We don't charge a fee to do it, but it is $250 minimum to open the account. Don't worry about whatever questions you put in the chat box. We're going to get to you. I promise. So ABLE account versus the special needs trust. Let's just outline some of this. And I am saving those questions, so don't worry. The ABLE account, again, it's limited to the annual contribution, and the total balance cannot exceed $100,000. The special needs trust, on the other hand, is unlimited. You can put your life insurance in there. You can put your investment accounts in there. You can even put a house or anything like that. Whereas the ABLE account is funded with cash, the special needs trust is funded with any asset type that you want to put in there. The beneficiary has control over the ABLE account. They generally are able to get that money and spend it when they need. The trustee controls the special needs trust. You can have a family member or friend be the trustee on the account, or you can hire someone to do that for you. The ABLE account, again, you can use it for anything you need, including housing. However, if you have a special needs trust and you're still receiving SSI benefits, You should not use your special needs trust to pay for housing because your SSI amount would be reduced. They consider that an in-kind um, gift to your loved one if they're not paying for housing. Okay. The ABLE account has that tax advantaged savings where your earnings grow tax free and that all of the disability expenses that you paid, none of that gets taxed. With the special needs trust, that income does get taxed, and you do have to pay yearly on that. Now, the ABLE account has that payback that I mentioned, where Medicaid can come back and claim reimbursement for the money that they've provided to your loved one if there's any money left over in the ABLE account. However, on the third party special needs trust, and I say third party here very specifically, because on the third party trust, there is no payback clause for Medicaid. If it's a first party special needs trust, there is a reimbursement clause for Medicaid. That's a huge advantage. You can have beneficiaries other than your loved one on the special needs trust if it's a third party. And yes, you can use money, you can move money from the special needs trust into the ABLE account for them to be able to spend. Now, what happens after high school? All these different programs that I mentioned at the beginning, we typically have webinars about them. So if you want to learn more about educational options, we do talk about those in some of our webinars, or maybe we'll have a panel of residential communities or transition programs or summer camps that are available for your loved one. We also have vocational opportunities that we talk about quite frequently through maybe Texas Workforce Commission or Project Search or Higher Ability. These are all programs that are available to your loved ones. When you work with us, we give you these lists of resources and we help you find helpful resources for your loved one. So there's a couple more slides that I have. I do want to make sure that I get to the questions that you have first, though, or before we leave this webinar. So I just real quick, I'll go through these and then I'll grab these last questions. This link will take you to our upcoming webinars. You can pre-register so that you get the link ahead of time. You can ask questions ahead of time. You get reminders, and also you receive the slides and links and all of that stuff in your email after we present. We do offer a completely free consultation to answer any questions that you have. This is over Zoom, and it's usually about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on your questions. We can answer those questions, give you some helpful advice, and then we'll talk to you a little bit about how we work and what we do if you're interested in that. So to Mark is asking for a copy of the recording. We do send a copy to everyone who has registered. If you happen to be watching on our YouTube channel or listening on our podcast and you didn't register for today's webinar, you can always email us, contact@cpgcares.net, and ask for a copy of the slides. We're happy to send those out. The next question I see, does a disabled child receive 50% of both parents' SSI benefits or just one? Dana, the answer to that is just one, but your child can follow whichever parent has the higher benefits. So, for example, let's say mom turns on her benefits and the child goes under her because she turned hers on first. But then dad comes along and he turns on his benefit and it's more. You can switch your child to the higher of those benefit amounts. If you are questioning how and when you should turn on those Social Security benefits, we do provide a Social Security maximization that tells you how to get the most that you possibly can through Social Security by by turning on those benefits at the right time. Many people think that if they wait until they're 70, that's the most Social Security they could possibly get. But when you're turning on benefits for your child at the same time you turn on benefits for yourself, and possibly your spouse, even, that doubles your benefit right up front. So it might make more sense to turn it on a little earlier. We do that analysis for our clients, and we'd be happy to do that for you. Um, Angela says, I have a home and I want to give it to my disabled son. It's paid off. Will that affect his SSI? Angela, it would not, because you're allowed to have one house, one car, and $2,000. But do think that through. How are property taxes going to be paid? How are repairs going to be made? How is your son going to pay for utilities and insurance on that property? Um, be sure you think all of those things through before you just give your loved one a house. The next question, can you move funds from the special needs trust to the ABLE account? Yes, I already mentioned that you can do that. Amy says, you said that money put into the ABLE account could be taken out by the state when the individual with needs passes. Do they take all the money or specifically only the money they put in? So, Amy, the state does not put money into the ABLE account. You, as the parent, do, or the child can, or anyone else can put money into the ABLE account for your loved one. It's just, I mean, the state doesn't put money directly in. But what happens is, let's say the state has paid $50,000 in Medicaid expenses for your loved one, and then your loved one passes away, and there's 100,000 in the ABLE account. Yes, the state could come back and claim $50,000. Now, do they always do that? I'm not sure. I've heard varying tales and stories on that part of it. They could. So our advice is either, spend all of the money from the ABLE account and then switch over to using the special needs trust, or maybe just, keep the amount low because even, what if there's 5,000 in there when your loved one passes away and Medicaid spent 50,000 on your child? Well, they can only take the 5,000. Some people say, all right, that's fine. They've helped me out all this time. They're welcome to take that money. And other people really want to make sure that they use it and play the game and don't leave any for Medicaid. That's totally up to you. They cannot, though. Last thing about this, and then we're going to move on to the next question. If Medicaid has only spent 5,000 on your child, they cannot take 50,000 out. They can only take however much they spent on your loved one. If your child moves to another country, they would lose SSI and SSDI benefits. Those are for citizens, and because it's part of retirement, they would lose out on that if they move to another country. You can visit another country, but you cannot stay more than 30 days, or else you could be hurting your benefits. Thank you, Tammy, for the compliment. Andy says, we are moving from green card holders to citizens later this year. Do we have to wait until then before initiating the trust and ABLE account? Our son is 18 in October. So, Andy, if your son has a social security number, he would be able to get these benefits. If he does not have a social security number, he wouldn't be able to get benefits like SSI and Medicaid. You can still go ahead with the ABLE account and trust. Those are not contingent on the government giving you a benefit. Those are just things that you set up. Thank you, Christina and Amy and Sharon, for all of your compliments. I don't see any other questions in the chat box, but I do want to just, like I said, thank you all for being here today. please take a moment and sign up for your free consultation. You would be meeting with either me or my husband, Andy. He's pictured here on our Meet the Team slide with the big beard. This is everyone who works at Consolidated Planning Group. I would love to chat with you. The consult is completely free. Please go ahead and sign up for that. And then again, if you have any further questions or there's anything we can help you with, just reach out. We're here to help you. Um, we're here to be a guide on your journey. And if there's anything you need, you can reach out. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you again for being here.